Yep. Good evening, everyone. So yesterday we learned about how do we handle all data types working with different types of data. So in React, now you have a clarity about how to present different data types. That means we have to work with real data now. But before working with real data, we should first know where to store the data, how do we access the data, and we present. For that, we learnt all the techniques and we discussed about one concept, that is one way binding. We learnt about one way binding. Now, to understand two way data binding, now we are going to learn about another very important, that is event binding. Event binding in React. We are going to see how to deal with event binding. So many points you need to understand about event binding. In React.js interviews, one of the main concept in interview topics is this event binding. That means in React interviews, several questions are asked related to event binding. Even at experience level also, so many questions are asked related to this event binding. So we will learn about this event binding detailedly. We will try to understand what is that event binding detailedly. So first, important, you need to know one by one, concept wise we will see. First important point is, what is event? So you need to know as a developer what is the concept of event, how we define the event and how to handle. Actually, here let me explain a simple concept. So, yeah. So here, let's check with one simple point. Suppose we are having an object, and this object is some red filled with yellow. Now we have one object here. Let's say this object, yeah, let's say this object is something like a ball. Now this object is having a red border, it is having a yellow fill, and it is having some 100 radius. It is having. So the ball is having red border, yellow fill, 100 radius. That means they describe how it looks like, right? Now, technically, these are called as properties. Properties describe how an element looks like, an object looks like, width, height, so its color. All these are considered as what? Properties. Now, what the actions this object can perform? That means a ball can spin, a ball can roll, a ball can bounce. These are the actions performed by that particular object. So these are called as methods. Methods means what actions it can perform. That means a ball can roll, a ball can bounce, a ball can spin. Now the question is when it can do them. when a ball can spin. So when you spin the ball, it will spin. When you throw the ball, it will bounce. So it will, when you roll the ball, it will roll. That means these are what these are the triggers to perform a particular method. What action to be performed? For that we need a trigger, and that trigger we call this as what? Event. So what is event? Actually, technical definition is that event is a trigger for performing a specific functionality. An element can do some work, and what is the trigger for that work? When it will do that work? When that particular event fires up. So how an object looks like, that is properties. What actions it can do, those are methods. And when it can do them, those are events. So technically, how you define this, this is a general definition. This is general. For example, we have a button. So that means this element is a button element. This is a button. Now, this button is having like width 200 pixel. This button is having height as 50 pixel. This button is having black border like this. So what are all these? These are all properties. What a button can do, button can close, button can open, button can save, button can submit. Am I right? These are all what? Methods. What an object can do. When it can do them, when you click the button, when you mouse over the button, when you double click the button, what are these? Events. So an object can perform any functionality on a particular event. So event is a trigger for performing any specific functionality. Any functionality we can do by trigger of event. How you technically define this actually? So if anyone asks, what is this event concept? What is the concept of general? You understood. That means you designed a button, you designed a drop down, and a button can do some action like submitting, like resetting, like saving, like opening, like closing. But when it can do that, it can do on a particular trigger, on a particular trigger. So technically, what is event? Actually, event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. So that is technical definition about event. Event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. That's how generally we define an event. What is the meaning of this? I will explain. So, what is the concept of this? We will see. First, we will try to understand what is event, how it works in JavaScript, and how it is handled in React. So, actually, what is the meaning of this? Let's say these diagrams I will upload into Classroom, right? So today this is pick one. Okay. And we will add this. Okay. Fine. Next, what you need to understand is actually, for example, we have a function called insert click. This is a function. And we have a button on click. On button click, we are using insert click. Insert click. This is some insert button. Now, by seeing this concept, generally what people understand about this is there is a function called insert click. And when you click insert button, that function is called. Am I right? No, it is not. That means generally what people think about this structure is there is a function called insert click, and on button click it is calling that insert click. No, it's wrong. Actually, it is not calling insert click. It is pointing towards it. That means it is not calling, it is pointing towards it. It is not calling the function, it is pointing towards the function. So event is not calling the functions. It is going towards the functions. I will show one example to get a clarity on this. For example, let's take a simple HTML page. We'll take a HTML page. In this, we have a button, and button is insert and on click. So we have a function what? Insert click. So we have a script, and in the script, nothing is there. It is empty. Now I will run this page. Is there any function called insert click? No. Generally in programming, if you are trying to call a function which is not at all there, then what it will do? It should show an error. What is that error? Reference error. What is reference error? I can't find insert click. Let's open inspect and go to the console. And in the console, you can see there is no error. If you are calling a function and there is no function by that name, then there must be some error saying that there is no insert click. So your event is not calling the function. Event is pointing towards the function. That means when I click on insert button, it will try to point towards the function. Now it is unable to find it. Then it will show an error. So events are not calling the functions. They are pointing towards a function. They don't call the function. They point towards the function. So actually, event uses event event uses event uses a delegate mechanism. Delegate mechanism. Delegate mechanism means it is a function pointer mechanism. Event uses a delegate mechanism. Delegate mechanism means function pointer mechanism. Function pointer mechanism. So it is not calling the function, it is pointing towards the function. So events are not calling the function, they are pointing towards the function. Actually, event follows a software design pattern called, it follows a software design pattern called observer. It follows a software design pattern called observer. And actually, observer is a communication pattern. It is a communication pattern. So I hope you people know software development is all about design patterns. Applications are built by following design patterns. And how many design patterns are there? Any language learners know, like Java, .NET, all these people, because there is no technology without design patterns. So there are 23 design patterns. We call them as gang of four: creational, structural, behavioral. So your technologies like Java, .NET, they teach you about those patterns. Software development is all about implementing different types of patterns and building an application. You will come across with different types of design patterns like singleton. What is a singleton pattern? Who people know what is a singleton pattern? Singleton pattern is a class where it can have only one instance. A class can have only one instance. In Java.NET, how do you implement singleton pattern? These are all general things related to design pattern. So I will not go much into design pattern. It becomes a big topic again. So our concept is not understanding design patterns here, but you have to know that software development is all about design patterns. We build applications by following design patterns. And design patterns are categorized into three: creational, structural, and behavioral. Creational patterns deal with object creation mechanism. Structural patterns deal with designing of classes. Behavioral patterns deal with communication. They deal with communication. So actually, software development is all about the design patterns actually. It is all about the design patterns. So it is about design patterns. So this is the concept of design patterns. I'm not going in depth about them because it's a very huge concept, and a person who shows experience 10 years, 15 years, he must be aware of all the design patterns. That means he knows every design pattern used in development. And actually these design patterns are called gang of four. They are categorized into three: creational, structural, behavioral. Right? And these are all creational patterns. Creational patterns are these: abstract, factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. These are creational patterns. Structural patterns are these. These are structural patterns: adapter, bridge, composite, decorator, facet, flyweight, proxy. And these are behavioral patterns. These are behavioral patterns: chain of responsibility, command, interpreter. You learned some of them. I hope you people know, you people learned the patterns like what? You learned pattern like iterator. What is iterator? Iterator is a software design pattern that defines how we can access elements from a collection in sequential order. Why for is called iterator? For each is called as a iterator because it uses a iterator pattern. That is why it is called iterator. And observer is a pattern. Even state is a pattern. We learned about use state, right? State is a design pattern. So technically, observer a way of notifying change to a number of classes. This is called as what? Observe. So what is event? Event follows one software design pattern. And what is the design pattern? Observer. Now here, what is this meaning? Event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. That meaning is nothing but this is called insert click. This is actually, this is called subscriber. This is a subscriber. This is a subscriber. What a subscriber is doing, it subscribed and it is waiting. Suppose you are a YouTube subscriber of a particular channel. You subscribed and you are waiting. When anybody uploads a video, you will be notified. Because you are a subscriber, you will be notified that somebody have uploaded a video. That means who is the sender? This is sender. This is sender. This is the sender. That means what sender is doing? Sender is sending a notification. That means somebody clicked a button. Then a notification sends to the function. Functions get notified that, okay, somebody clicked it. Then now the function will perform the functionality. That means event is not calling the function. Event is not calling a function. It is pointing towards a function. When you click a button, it will point towards that function and it will execute the function. So what is subscriber? Subscriber defines the actions to perform. What actions to perform, that is defined by subscriber. What it should do. The actions to be performed is defined by subscriber. And when it will do? When sender sends a notification. The mechanism of notifying the subscriber to perform a specific functionality is called event. So event is sending a message from sender to subscriber. Sender sends a notification, subscriber gets notified, and subscriber will perform the functionality. So event is not about calling the functions, it is about pointing towards the function. So here, what is sender and what is subscriber? So here another point. What is sender and subscriber? Sender and subscriber. So sender sends a notification. Sender sends a notification. Sender sends a notification from element. Sender sends a notification from element. That means button on here. Who is the sender? Sender is nothing but, in this case, we have a button on click. On click is what? Insert click. This is the sender. And subscriber defines the actions to perform. Subscriber defines the actions to perform. And how do you write the subscriber function? What is it? Insert click and what actions it should perform. This is subscriber. Who is sender and who is subscriber? Element is sending a notification and subscriber is performing the functionality. So it is related to communication. How a sender communicates with its subscriber. Event follows a communication pattern and that communication pattern is called observer. So this is first thing you should know about event. So what is event? In any software technology in the world, event means this. You may be using any technology in the world. So the concept of event is same everywhere, right? So the event will be this. That is sender, another one subscriber. Right. Next important you should know is what is event handler. What is event handler? What is a event handler? So what is event and what is event handler? This important we need to know. Actually, for example, you see here in this. So in this is on click. So on click, this is on click. What is this on click? So actually this on click is a event. That means on click is name of the event. On click is the name of event. On click, which function it points, it executes. That means where it is going to execute. On click, it is going to execute this function called insert click. This is called event handler. We call this as event handler. We call this as event handler. So we have a event and we have a event handler. So event defines when it should perform. Event handler defines what it should perform. That means event indicates when it will do. On click. Okay, on click what it should do. Insert click. That means which functionality it should handle. That means an event and an event handler is different. Event tells only what to do, when to do, and event handler tells when what to do. That means on click, do insert click. That means point towards the function. So event just a trigger. On the trigger, what functionality should be performed, that is decided by event handler. And you know, in JavaScript, we can write the events for any element without a handler. We can write events for any element without a handler. Generally, when we use handler, when an element is designed, statically configured, and we want that to perform specific functionality, then we write a event handler. But do you know in JavaScript, when an element is dynamically created, suppose button is not designed, button will later come into page. It will be dynamically created. Then how you will write event for it? If button is already there, then you will write an event on click. If button is not there, later it will come. Dynamically it will come. That means dynamically it will be added into your page. Then how you write event? In design, there is no button. In design, there is no button. Button will come later. Then how do you write event for the button? In that case, you need a event listener. We have event handlers and we have event listeners. A handler is designed statically and a listener is defined dynamically. Listener is defined dynamically. That means in JavaScript based technologies, events are written by using event handler and we have a event listener. Event handlers and event listener. I will show you the situation. So what is event handler? So it is a delegate. Event handler is a delegate. Delegate means function pointer. Delegate. Event, it is a delegate. Delegate means it is a function pointer. It is a delegate. That means it is a function pointer. That means here we have on click is equal to insert click. Now this is called, so in this we have two parts. So if I write this on click, okay, what is the 2 points? This is event handler and this is what? Event. We have a event handler and event. So it defines, handler defines, that means event handler triggers notification to a specific function on particular event on particular event. Event handler triggers notification to specific function on particular event. That is event handler. And what is the key point is you can define a handler for any element that is static. You can define a handler for any element that is static. If an element is dynamic, that means it is not present in your design, later it will come. Then how do you write the event for this? And for that, you need to know what is an event listener. What is an event listener? We have event handlers and we have event listeners. I will show you this situation. We will see how we can handle that. So we will see how we can handle that situation. So this, right. We will see how we can handle the situation. That means how we can handle the listeners, how we can manage the listener. Let's see. For example, we have this is a handler button on click. Okay, we have a function. What is the function? Function is insert click. On insert click, it will perform some functionality. Document dot write record inserted. I am first explaining you all the event related basics of JavaScript. Then only you are ready to use them in React. Without knowing all these, you can't do anything in React related to events. You should know all these very basic things, right? Now here we have insert click. Okay. Now there is a simple body section is there. That means we are having a body section here. Right. So we are having a body. Yep. In the body section, this is insert button. Already we have this button in the page and it is doing some functionality. Okay, let's do one thing. Body on load. On load, we have a body load. So we write a function and the function is body load. On body load, we will create a btn delete document dot create element. I am creating a button and btn delete dot inner html. It is delete button. And we will add this document dot query selector into the body. We will append child. I am adding btn delete. That means I am adding a button into my page delete. There is no design for this button. I haven't designed the delete button through HTML. I designed this through my dynamic logic. That means a button is created dynamically in the page. Now tell me how to write event for this. You have an event for this working. How do you write an event for this? There is no delete button in the page. In the page, there is no delete button. In the page, there is no delete button. Then where you will write the event? Generally, JavaScript people know how do you write the event. So we write the event. We write the event by using btn delete can use an add event listener. We can add a event listener. This event listener is a function. And what the functionality it is doing, that means what the functionality it is doing. That means the functionality is, it defines. That means this function, actually we can write a function configuration like this. You can see add event listener. Event listener is a method. What is the element? What is the event? Event is click. So what functionality to do on click? The function you have to write. The functionality is what? Document dot write. What is it? Record deleted. That is the message it should display. So this record deleted. That means for insert button, record inserted. For delete button, record deleted. But delete button is not present in my design. It is dynamically added. And when it is dynamically added, there are no event handlers for them. Then how do you write the event? By using event listener. Event listener. That means now delete will do delete work. Delete will do delete work and insert will do insert work. That means it is going to do so event handler and event listener. Both are doing the work. That means how you write events for any element in a page through event handlers and through event listeners. Event handler and a event listener. And that is the reason in a little confusion type of questions, they may ask you, what is difference between on click and click? Even experienced people are confused about this if they are not good in the concept. That means what is difference between on click and click? I hope you observed now. On click, on is a word is used for handler and click is listener. Click is listener. So actual event name is click. It is not on click. On click is used for handler to identify that the action is performed or not. So that means actual event name is just click. Then why you write on click? Because you are writing a handler. You are writing a handler on click. That handler will perform the functionality. Listener doesn't require on click because listener will attach the event while creating the button. That means listener will attach the event while creating the button, but when the event will trigger, why it is called listener? That means function is ready and it is listening. You make a request, it will respond. That means functionality is ready, it is listening. It is listening. Now you ask what you want, it will respond to you. That is what actually server do. You know servers. Servers will listen. Servers, generally people say server is running, right? Server is running. Where it is running? For any Olympic medal it is running. Then where it is, what is running? Right? Server is listening. So why you say request and response? It is listening. That is the reason you are able to make a request. If server is not listening, that means server not started. If server is not started, that means it is not listening. If it is not listening, you make a request, it will not respond. That means server is listening. Server is not running. Right? Server is listening. You make request, it will respond. You have to start a server to start it listening. Event listeners. That means they are listening. You make a request, it will perform the functionality. That is the concept of listener. So what is handler and what is listener? So technically, what is listener? Event listener. Event listener is defined for elements that are added to page dynamically. And also to existing elements. and also to existing elements and also to existing elements on specific action on specific action. So and also to specific and also to the existing elements on specific actions. So event listener is defined for elements. Now you should not get to a conclusion that event listener is only for the elements that are dynamically created. Not only that, we write event listeners for event elements which are already present. Why we write that? For example, we have a button and we have a button called, this button is, for example, update. This button is update, ID as BTN update. We have a update button. And what we want is the update button is not having any functionality, but it is already in the design. I want to add functionality to this button later, not now. Later means what? When the situation is suitable for it, it will attach a update functionality. If it is not suitable, I don't want to update. That means generally you tell me when a update button should work, when any modification is done. Am I right? When any modification is done, update should work. Why you are writing an event and keeping that event ready without knowing whether it is modified or not? That means what you are doing now, you are writing, what you are doing, you are writing on click. On click, which function it is? Some update click. Why you are attaching an event to an element without knowing whether it needs to update or not? That means you are connecting an event. So why you are connecting an event without update is required? This is also a performance issue. That means you are unnecessarily registering events which are not required. That means at the time of loading the page, it registered a event update click. Why? Why you registered that event called update click if you are not using it? That means when to register? When we want to update. That means in this situation also, what we do? We write event for this button dynamically. How to attach an event for this button? So on body load, I want to attach. Or later some event I should attach. Then what we will do? On body load, how to attach event for that button? What is the button? Document dot get element by ID. What is it? BTN update. BTN update. To that we have to use an add event listener. Add event listener. And what is the event? Event is what? Click. On click, what is the function? You can use Lambda shortcut techniques and all. And what is the functionality? Document dot write. It should say record what updated. Record updated successfully. This is the message it should display. That means we are writing events. You click on update, it is working fine. You click on insert, it is working fine. And delete, it is working fine. One button is present statically and it is registered with an event. Even we don't use that, that event is registered. Another button is having an event which is registered only at the time of loading the page. It is having the event and its functionality at the time of loading the page. Another button, it is having an event when it is created. At the time of creating delete button, we attached the delete event. Delete event. That is the concept of event listener. So event listener is not just only for elements which we add dynamically. It is also for registering an event for a particular element dynamically according to the situation. According to the situation. So that is the concept of event listener. That is the concept of event listener. So you can configure listener. You can configure listener for elements according to state and situation, so that they are registered only when they are required. They are registered only when they are required. That is another point. And how do you write document dot query selector? Suppose we have a button. So for that, add event listener, and we have the event, and we have a callback function that performs the functionality. So if anyone asks what is difference between on click and click. So on click is a handler event, and a click is a listener event. On click is a handler event, and click is a listener event. So we have the event handler and the event listener. So what is event and what is event handler and what are event listeners? Event listeners. I will copy this example to you. So let me copy this example. And this example just to make you understand about how events are defined in a HTML. Right. So these all concepts are important for React developer. So or a Angular developer. You can't write anything related to events without knowing all these things. So we have event handler, and event listener. Right. Next important, you need to know another important is what are event arguments? What are event arguments? So event handler, event listener, and event arguments. What are actually event arguments? The concept of event arguments. What are these event arguments actually? Event arguments are nothing but, so event argument defines the payload of event. The payload of event. Event argument defines the payload of event. Payload of event. What is the meaning of the word payload? Payload means that some data carried from one place to another. In software technologies, payload refers to the data carried from one place to another. Right? You are carrying data from one place to another. That means a payload is delivered. So payload, that means even in general concept also we use. For example, a fighter plane have some missiles arranged to that fighter plane, and that means the missiles that are there in the fighter plane, those missiles are called payloads. Why? Because the fighter plane will go and deliver those payloads at a certain place. It will go and it will deliver. The bombs that are attached to the fighter plane, these are payloads. What are the payloads? So a rocket is having a payload. Satellite is a payload. What rocket will do? It will take the payload. Payload is whom? Satellite. And it will deliver in the orbit. That is payload. Payload is carrying data from one place to another. Now, important here is in event, what is the payload? What is the payload? Actually, this event, this is event, and event have a payload. Payload means information about this event and information about this element. We can deliver that information, to its function. Information about the button, information about the event, we can deliver to this function. Why a function need to know that? That means what is this payload? Let's put a one concept here. So I will just use a simple approach now here. I'm just having a button. So it is insert. I have another button, update. So another button is delete. So we have this button have a name, insert. So it is having a name, that is update, and this is having a name, that is delete. Now we have a function. So that means, in JavaScript, now anywhere, if you want these three functions to handle three different functionalities, that means insert, update, delete, these three buttons need to perform three different functionalities. Then you don't need to write three different functions. You can write only one function, database. And this function can be used by all three buttons. That means on click, it will point towards database. On click, this also, on click, this also point towards database. And on click, this also points towards database. All are pointing towards the same function. Then all will do the same work. On insert, on update, on delete, all will do the same work. No, I want insert to do insert work, update to do update work, delete to do delete work. Then how a function knows which button you click? How a function knows which button you clicked? Is it delete? Is it insert? Is it update? How a function knows? Same function is used for all the three. Then how the function knows which one you click? That means now what is our responsibility is we have to send information about this button to this function. That means we need to send information about that button to that particular function. That means we have to carry some data, and data is about the element. We have to carry the data that is about the element. How you can carry information about the element and deliver it to the function? You can do that by using this keyword. This refers to current element. That means this contains the payload. It is the data. It contains the data related to element. Element related any data you can send to the function by using this keyword. So this is an event argument. This is an event argument. What this event argument is carrying? This event argument is carrying information about the button. Carrying information about the button means currently button is having only name. Button can have name, ID, class name, width, height, anything. Everything about button we can send to the function by using which parameter? This. This is an event argument. It is a default argument. Default argument to deliver. It is going to deliver information about the button. That means what we are going to do, we are using this and we are using this. And here we are going to collect that. We need a formal parameter. Formal parameter is we are getting information about button. So I will use BTN. We are getting information about the button. So I will use a reference button. And here I want to display that. That means I will use an option here, document.write btn.name. That means what is this BTN? BTN is referring to this element. This element, this is this, it is using this, and this refers to whom? This refers to that button. And button related a property called name. We can send that name here. We can access that name. Not only name, this button may have a ID. The button may have a class name. Button may have a value. Everything we can collect here. That means now see what it is doing. You click on update, it says update. You click on insert, it says insert. You click on delete, it says delete. That means event argument is carrying data about the element. One event argument. That means what is the event argument? It defines the payload. And every event have two default arguments. Every event have two default arguments to define in handler. What are those default arguments? One is this, another one is event. We have two arguments. One is this, another one is event. And what is this? This contains information about the current element. Information about the current element. Like what? Like ID, name, like it have details like ID, it have like name, it have like class name, it is having like other attributes, SRC, it is having like href, depending on element. If it is a image, then we can send its SRC. If it is an image, we can send SRC. If it is a link, we can send its href. It depends. This depends. You can send the details about it. And what is event? Event contains, yeah. Event contains information about current event. Contains information about current event. Information about current event. So like information about current event, like client X, we have like client Y, we have like key code, we have char code, we have like which. All these are event related details. Every event have two default arguments. One is this, another one is event. We have two default arguments, this and event. This is going to send information about, it is going to send information about the current element, button or image or link or div span, anything. So information about the element is sent to the function. The payload is data about the element. that is sent by using this. We have another one. What is another one? We have event. Remember, these are keywords and there is no order dependency. That means these two are event arguments. You can use any of them. You can use either only event, you can use event and this, you can use this and event. That means there is no concept of order dependency. That means you can write only this, you can write this and event, you can write both event and this. Order doesn't matter. Only event you can write, only this you can write. But that means here we are expecting one more parameter. What is the parameter? E. This those are formal parameters. Formal names, you know, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, anything you can give, right? This formal name can be anything, but actual name must be this and event. This and event. And remember, what is this event? Event sends information about this event. That means event sends information about that event. This will send information about the element. You may ask, like, what will be information about event? That means click is event. What will be information about click? Lot of information. Where you clicked, how you clicked. That means you clicked inside, you clicked outside, on x-axis, on y-axis. You clicked left button, you clicked right button. That means everything matters. You clicked with control key, you clicked with alt key, you clicked with shift key. That means how you clicked. That is also important to know. That is done by using this event argument. Event argument sends the event information. I will do one thing here. I am displaying name. I will put document dot write. Suppose I will say button name. How to access the button name? We can access the button name btn dot what? Name. In the next line, I want to access like some X position. That means on X position where they clicked. I want to get that. We can get E dot what it is, client X. I want to know whether they clicked with a control key or not. That means control key, whether they used or not. I want to know. Then E dot CTRL key. That means it will verify whether they used a control key or not. Why? Because, for example, you see, suppose I am typing some website address here, http://www.amazon.in. I entered some website address. And see, interestingly, when I move the mouse onto it, it is showing a message, control plus click, it will open this link. How it knows that you clicked with control key or not? If you don't use a control key, it will not open. If you use a control key, it will open. That means I thought click means only click. But it is not that. With which combination you clicked, where you clicked, everything matters. That also important to understand. Because a lot of actions depends on that. For example, do you know, on screen some dialog box open. When a dialog box open, you can close the dialog box or click outside the dialog box. Dialog box will close. How it knows that you clicked outside? That means where you clicked. So how you clicked, this also important. And how you will get that information by using this. That means now I used a control key and clicked on this. Then it will open in a separate window. That means it will open that in a separate window. It will open in a separate window. Without control key, I click, nothing is happening. Same thing I have used here, control key used or not. I am using that here, control key used or not. Okay, let's do this and see. That means what we are doing, I am clicking on this particular button. Let's click on that button. So you click on this button. When I click on the button, it is going to get the details of this button. You see, I am clicking some left side corner. Then button X position is 9. Have I used any control key? No. Okay, let's do one thing. I will press Control key and click on at the end of this button. Then it is 55. Control keys is true. That means we can define actions based on the combinations. Click means not just click. For example, your keyboard contains, computer keyboard contains 112 keys in a standard keyboard. Standard enhanced keyboards are present, and the standard enhanced keyboards, the standard keyboards keys count is 112 keys, 112. That is the standard keyboard count. Thousands of software technologies, only 112 keys enough. Java, .NET, PHP, Python, hundreds of software languages, only 112 keys enough to manage everything. How it is happening? Right? In Java, one key will do one work. In .NET, that will do another work, another one, another work. That means how it is managing. That means it is all about the events. That means where, which situation, then how to handle that. This is all actually event related information. We can send event related information also. For example, this is one basic example. So I will give you another point here. Observe means just question here. Suppose see. The concept is simple. Suppose we are having an image. Image source is / public images. Public in that we have some iPhone. So I think we have iPhone. So we have some images. Yeah, iPhone black. iPhone black.jpg. Okay, we have this image. And you see some images there. Now what we want to do is, in this image, anywhere they clicked in the camera area, I want to show the camera configuration. And anywhere they clicked on other area, then I want to show that information. Right? How you know where they clicked on that image? That means actually it's a complex thing, but initially, can we get the position of this camera? That means how you get the position of that camera. So we will do one thing, on click, what is it? Image click. On image click, we will send what? Event. And we will write a function. What is it? Image click is expecting an event argument, and console.log. First we will get the position. That means E dot, what is it? Client X. Client X is the X position. X position. And we will use another line I will put here. Yeah. So in the next, or we'll just keep X position and yeah. Plus I will keep /n. I will put Y position. That means E dot client Y. X position and Y position I am accessing. That means you see the X position here. I click the X position. X position is 85. So what is it? Client X, client C is lowercase. Okay, yeah. That is Y position. This is X position. X position is 41. That means anywhere I click, X position is 41, 41, 30, 43. This is the there. I will take an approximate value. X position is from 40 to how much? 40 to 159. Y position is how much? Y position is from 29 to how much? 29 to 144. That is the value. That means here I am writing a condition. I am writing a condition. What is it? If E dot, what is that? Client X is greater than or is equal to 40 and E dot client X is less than or equal to what? 159. 159. That is the condition. That means that is the condition. That means actually this is one area. This is one area. And we are having another one. We should match with the y-axis also. That means what is that? E dot client Y is greater than or equal to how much? 30. And E dot, what is it? Client Y less than or equal to how much? 144. That means now I will put document dot write. So you clicked on camera. Camera. That means suppose some 32 pixel camera, something like this. That means 32 pixel, yeah, 32 pixel dual camera. That is the point I'm giving. So otherwise, so document dot write I am giving as some silicon panel, something like this. That means now what is the point here? I clicked anywhere there, it is a silicon panel. And I clicked on this location, then it says 32 pixel camera. That means we even know where they clicked. That means we clicked on this camera area, then it says it is 32 pixel dual camera. Right? That means how you can send information about event. Information about event is sent. This is just one example actually to show you. This is another example. So we have two event arguments, default arguments. What are the default arguments? This and event. This carries information about the element, and event carries information about the event. And very important is you have custom arguments also. That means here event argument, event can have custom arguments. Custom arguments can have custom arguments. Event can have custom arguments. Custom arguments means we can have our own arguments. Custom arguments, that means you can define along with default arguments or only custom arguments. Custom args, your wish. You can define in any way, it doesn't matter. We can define along with default arguments, and you can define with the custom arguments or default arguments. We can have both of them, or you can send only specific. So what is the custom argument? That means you can send your own details there. For example, now you see here, I copied this example already. Yeah. Suppose we are having a button. So we have a insert button. That means on click. So I say, suppose this is a details button. So on click, we say get details. And here, this is having this, it is having event. You can have custom arguments. You can have a string. That means suppose product, suppose you say some Samsung TV, and you can have an array. So you have Delhi, another one we have in Hyderabad, like this. You can have a rating. Rating is an object. It is having like rate. Rate is how much? Some 4.5. You can send anything. You can send only this. You can send only event. You can send both this and event. You can send only your arguments. You can send your arguments along with default arguments. Anything you can do. That means, for example, now this button is having an ID, BTN details. Now see what is the event we are writing. We are writing a script, and we have a function. What is it? Get details. And you know that get details is now expecting so many arguments. You know how to collect all arguments with one parameter? We can use REST parameter. Right? You can have separate arguments, separate parameters, but you learnt in JavaScript, one REST parameter is enough to accept all the arguments. One REST parameter. What is that parameter? Suppose I give param, any name. That means this one REST parameter is going to access all these arguments. Then what it is parameter, it is an array type. That means we will use a destructuring technique. What is the destructuring technique? First one is about button, second one is about event, third one is a name. Okay, fourth one is an array. Array is what? Cities. And fifth one is what? Fifth one is what? Rating. Rate. I'll just put rating like is equal to param. That means what happens? This is sent into the param, right? That param is assigned. This is at which index? This is actually the param is an array type, na? It is an array type. We are using a destructuring technique. That means the 0 index will be stored in this, 1 index will be stored here, 2 index, 3 index, 4 index, we can access them. That means now see what I am doing here, document.write. Okay. I want to get the button ID. How do we get the button ID? Button ID we can access by using btn dot what? ID. Okay, next I want to get exposition. How to get exposition? We can use e dot what? Client X. In the next I want to get the product name. Product name. How do we get the product name? By using name. In the next I want to get the cities. How do we get the cities? Cities dot to string. It is an array, na? You know array how to handle them. Then in the next option, okay. Next it is having what? Rating. How to get the rating? We have a rating dot what? Rate, because we know that rating is an object type. That means you can see when I click this button. So when you click this button details, it is going to get all the details. That means it contains default arguments, it contains custom arguments. So you can send everything. Only custom arguments you can send, only default arguments you can send both. Right? That means event contains both custom arguments as well as default arguments. That means, so how do you define? So we have a button. So on click is equal to some details. So just roughly details. And here we have a string. So here we have a number. So here we have a boolean. So here we have an array. Here we have an object. Anything we can send. Anything we can send. Then how do we collect that? Generally, we have a function. Function is details. It is collecting name. It is collecting some price. It is collecting some stock. It is collecting some cities. It is collecting some rating. I just used individual references, but in my example, I showed you an REST parameter. One REST parameter is enough to access all the arguments. Through one REST parameter, you can access all the arguments. So event can have default arguments. Event can have custom arguments. What are default arguments? This and event. This and event. What is the custom argument? Custom argument, anything. It is primitive type or a non-primitive type. Now here another problem is that these arguments are not allowed in the same way in event listener. These you saw event arguments in event handler. Event listener will allow only one argument. Event listener will allow only one argument, and that argument is event. Then how about I can access element details? Event listener will not allow two arguments. Event listener will allow only one argument, that is event. Then how I get information about element? Element related detail, how do I get? So here another important concept is event listener. Listener can have only one argument that refers to event. However, event can access both event and element related details. However, it can access both event and element related details. How it can access both element and event related details? That means, for example, we have a BTN insert syntax I will give. To that BTN insert, we are adding event listener. Event listener. And event listener is using event. What is the event? Click. And it is having a function. In that, we can have only one argument. You can have only one argument inside it. Because it is a formal, it is not actual. And formal, that E refers to event. Then what about element? Then you can access E dot what? Client X. You can access E dot what? Client Y. You can access E dot what? CTRL key, like that. Then how to access object related details? Element related details, button related details, E dot target dot ID. We have E dot target dot name. We have E dot target dot target dot class name, like this. That means element related details are accessed by using a property called target. And event related details are directly accessible. Event, that means now one argument have both details. One argument is having both details, event related details, element related details. And element related details are under which reference? They are under the reference of target. Element related details you can access by using target. Event related details you can directly access. This is in the case of event listener. Event listener, event arguments are different. Means arguments are same, but the way how you refer those arguments is different. So that means here another problem is we don't have custom arguments here. There is no chance of custom arguments because this function allows only one. And there is no custom arguments. Then custom arguments are done by using other techniques in events, which we will learn later. Right? Suppose if you are using listener, but if you are using handler, you can pass custom arguments. But listener cannot have custom arguments because that is formal parameter. That is not actual parameter. Formal parameter means it contains a reference. Reference for whom? Reference for event. It contains reference for event and it is fixed. It is always reference for event only. That means how you access this. Let's see. That means now we want to do this for a button which is already there. That means we want to do this for a button. This is button. So we are not having any event for this. Okay. That means it is just BTN details. So we will write a listener for this. On load, what is it? Body load. Okay, we write a function. What is the function? Function is body load. On body load, we will get element by ID. What is it? BTN details. BTN details. We add event listener. And what is the event name? Click, and it will have a callback function with only one argument. Only one argument. Then how do we get the details? Here we are accepting. Suppose I want to get button ID. How do you get the button ID? You can get the button ID E dot target dot ID. How you will get the event exposition? Exposition we can directly get E dot what? Client X. I want control key. Control key you can directly get. How do you get? E dot CTRL key. Suppose I want button class name. Then we have to get E dot target dot what? Class name. Actually button don't have a class name. I will add the class here. What is the class? BTN primary something. That means now you see this button is having the event arguments same. But this time no two parameters, only one argument. Listener can have only one argument. And what is that argument? Event. Through event, you can access both event related details as well as the element related details. Actually, our React follows this mechanism. Our React follows this mechanism of listener. Then how do we send default arguments, custom arguments? You will learn. So many techniques are there. Our React will not follow the handler mechanism every time. It follows a listener. It will have a handler, but it uses a listener dynamically in virtual DOM. Right? For that, first you need to understand what is handler, what is listener, and what are event arguments. What are event arguments? I hope you are clear. We discussed about event, what is event handler, and what is event listener. What are event arguments? Still, so many things are there about event that will take entire next session also. Then we are ready to understand about working with events in React, right? That we will see in next session. In the next session, we will continue with the concept of events, right? We will tomorrow discuss that. Okay.